My brother dared me to disappear at Christmas dinner, so I took our family bank account and watched my parents and spoiled brother lose everything overnight. I'm Blake, 28, male, and for as long as I can remember, I've been living in someone else's shadow, not metaphorically speaking either. I mean, literally existing as background noise in my own family story while my younger brother got the spotlight, the applause, and apparently all the validation our parents had to offer. The whole mess started before I could even remember it. I'm adopted. My parents, Richard and Linda, couldn't have kids naturally, so they adopted me when I was 6 months old. For 4 years, I was their only child. Then the impossible happened. Linda got pregnant. Tyler was born when I was 4, their biological miracle baby, and just like that, I became the practice kid they didn't need anymore. I have this vivid memory from when I was 7. It was picture day at school, and I'd gotten the proofs back. You know, those sheets with different poses and sizes. I was actually excited because, for once in my life, I'd smiled naturally instead of doing that awkward grimace most kids do in school photos. I brought them home thinking Mom would want to order the big package like she did for Tyler every year. She glanced at them for maybe 5 seconds. "These are nice, Blake. We'll get the basic package." The basic package was one 5x7 and a few wallet prints. Tyler's photos from the previous year, full deluxe package with an 11x14 for the living room wall, multiple 8x10s for relatives, the works. His pictures were still displayed prominently throughout the house while mine ended up in a drawer somewhere. That became the pattern for everything. Tyler would do something completely ordinary and get a parade. I could achieve something legitimately impressive and get a pat on the head if I was lucky. 4th grade was when I really started noticing the pattern. The science fair was coming up, and I'd spent weeks building a working model of the solar system with motors that made the planets actually orbit. I stayed up late, cutting foam balls, painting details, wiring the electronics, even convinced my teacher to let me present during the school assembly because it was legitimately impressive for a 4th grader. I won 1st place, got a trophy, a ribbon, and my picture in the local paper's education section. I brought the trophy home expecting some kind of recognition. Mom put it on a shelf in the hallway that nobody ever looked at. She didn't even mention it to Dad when he got home from work. Meanwhile, Tyler had gotten a participation certificate for field day that same week. They stuck it on the fridge with 3 magnets, and Dad took a picture to send to relatives. That summer, I asked if I could go to a STEM camp that one of my teachers recommended. It was 2 weeks long, focused on robotics and engineering, and I was genuinely excited about it. It cost $800. Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. "That's expensive for summer camp. Maybe next year." 2 months later, Tyler wanted to go to basketball camp. He'd played exactly 0 organized basketball in his life. It cost $950. They signed him up immediately and bought him new shoes for it. School became my only refuge. I worked like my life depended on it, because good grades were the only thing that made me feel like I had value. Straight A's all through elementary school, honor roll every semester, perfect attendance record. Teachers loved me because I actually tried. Other parents would mention me to my mom at school events. "Blake is such a good student. You must be so proud." She'd smile and thank them, but the pride never made it home. I'd overhear her on the phone with her sister. "Blake's doing fine in school, but he's so serious all the time. Tyler's much more fun. He's got this personality that just lights up a room." In 6th grade, I tested into the gifted program, a competitive placement that only accepted 15 kids from the entire district. My scores were in the 97th percentile. I came home with the acceptance letter thinking this would finally be the thing that impressed them. Mom read it, said, "That's wonderful," then immediately started talking about Tyler making the travel soccer team. He was one of 20 kids who tried out, and literally all 20 made it because they needed bodies for the roster. But sure, that was definitely more impressive than getting into the district gifted program. The gifted program meant extra homework, weekend projects, and a different schedule that sometimes conflicted with family plans. I'd miss Tyler's soccer games occasionally because I had academic competitions. This became a source of endless guilt trips. "Blake, family comes first," Mom would say when I missed another of Tyler's games to compete at a regional science Olympiad. "Your brother looks for you in the stands." Tyler never looked for me in the stands. I know because the few times I did attend his games, he never once glanced at where I was sitting. But pointing that out made me petty and jealous. 8th grade was my academic peak. I graduated valedictorian with a 4.0 GPA, won the school's Academic Excellence Award, got accepted into a specialized high school program, and had 3 different teachers write letters recommending me for various scholarships. I was genuinely proud of myself. The graduation ceremony was on a Wednesday evening in June. All the parents sat in the auditorium while we walked across the stage. When they announced my name and mentioned the valedictorian recognition, I could hear other families clapping. I looked out to find my parents in the crowd. They were both on their phones, didn't even look up. Dad was probably checking emails. Mom was likely texting someone. They clapped when everyone else did, but it was the kind of autopilot applause you do when you're not really paying attention. Tyler had 7th grade graduation at the same school the previous year. He finished with a 2.1 GPA, missed the honor roll entirely, and had multiple behavior notes on his report card for disrupting class. They threw him a party at home afterward, catered food, decorations, invited all his friends. I got dinner at Olive Garden with just the 4 of us, and Tyler spent the whole meal on his phone. High school was more of the same, just on a larger scale. I joined the debate team freshman year, made varsity as a sophomore, competed at nationals junior year. I also played soccer, not great at it, but I was consistent and showed up to every practice. I made National Honor Society, volunteered at the library, tutored other students in math, built the kind of resume colleges actually cared about. Tyler joined the social committee, which meant he helped pick themes for dances, went to parties every weekend, failed algebra twice, missed so many days that the school called about truancy. His biggest accomplishment was being named most likely to know everyone in some unofficial senior poll his friends made up. My parents never missed one of Tyler's social events but forgot my debate finals 3 times. They never came to a single soccer game despite me playing all 4 years. When I was inducted into National Honor Society, they showed up 15 minutes late and left right after the ceremony without staying for the reception. Senior year, I applied to 9 colleges and got accepted to 7 with various financial aid packages. This should have been exciting, proof that my hard work had paid off. My guidance counselor was thrilled and called my parents to congratulate them on having such an accomplished son. Mom's response when I told her about the acceptances, "That's nice, Blake. Have you thought about community college? It would be much more affordable." Tyler had already announced he wanted to go to State University. A decent 4-year public school, absolutely nothing special about it. They started planning his college fund contributions before he'd even applied. College application costs had come from my own savings, the money I made working weekends at the library. SAP prep? Paid for it myself. Application fees, testing fees, all of it came out of my pocket. Tyler's college application process 2 years later? Fully funded, including hiring a private college consultant who charged $200 an hour to help him write essays. I graduated high school 3rd in my class with a 3.9 to 4 GPA. Tyler graduated 287th out of 340 students with a 2.3 GPA. Guess which graduation party had a bigger budget? When it came time for college, the favoritism reached levels that should have been illegal. Tyler decided he wanted to go to State University about 3 hours away. Tuition there was running about $18,000 a year, plus room and board brought it to nearly $30,000 annually. Without blinking, Mom and Dad said yes. They paid for everything: tuition, meal plan, dorm room, textbooks, spending money. Tyler got a monthly allowance of $400 for incidentals, which he spent on late night food orders and concert tickets. They bought him a laptop, a mini fridge, even paid for his parking pass despite him not having a car on campus. Me? I got a conversation about financial responsibility over dinner at Applebee's. "Blake, we believe in you," Dad said, cutting into his steak, "but we think it's important you learn the value of money. Taking out some student loans will build character. Working while you're in school will teach you time management." They weren't completely cutting me off. They offered to contribute $3,000 per year toward my education. $3,000. Tyler was getting $30,000 annually, and I was getting $3,000 because apparently struggling financially builds character. The funny thing? I'd gotten into a better school than Tyler. Accepted to a state university ranked significantly higher with a partial academic scholarship that would have covered about 40% of tuition. With my parents' help covering even half the remaining cost, I could have graduated with minimal debt. Instead, I watched them write checks for Tyler's mediocre education while I got advice about being smart with money and making sacrifices. So I made sacrifices. I enrolled in community college because it was $2,800 per year instead of $18,000. I lived at home to save money, even though watching them fawn over Tyler while he was away at school made me want to scream. I worked 40 hours a week at a warehouse loading trucks. 3rd shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. My schedule was brutal. Classes during the day from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., homework and studying until 9 p.m., then off to work all night. I'd get home around 7:30 a.m., sleep until noon, and start the cycle again. I did that for 2 years straight. My social life was non-existent. My grades were solid, but not as good as they should have been because I was constantly exhausted. Tyler, meanwhile, was living his best life at State U. His Instagram was an endless stream of party photos, football games, trips to the beach, dinners at restaurants I couldn't afford. He changed his major 3 times in 2 years, started with business, switched to communications, then landed on marketing because according to Mom, he really found his calling. His calling was apparently the easiest major that required the least amount of actual work. Year 3, I transferred to a state school with junior standing. 62 credits transferred, which meant I could finish my business degree in 2 more years instead of the typical 4. I still worked full-time, now at a different warehouse that paid slightly better, $14.50 an hour, up from 12. I took 18 credit hours most semesters to accelerate my graduation. My academic advisor kept trying to talk me out of it, said it was too much combined with full-time work, but I made it work because I had to. I lived off campus in a terrible apartment that cost $425 a month. Roommate situations were a disaster. I went through 4 different people in 2 years because nobody wanted to live with. The guy who was never home and had no time for social activities. I had exactly 3 friends during those years. Study group people I'd occasionally grab food with between classes, but nothing deep. No time for relationships, no energy for maintaining friendships, just work, school, and sleep when possible. Tyler, now in his 5th year of college after switching majors again, was still getting the royal treatment. They increased his allowance to $500 monthly, paid for a spring break trip to Mexico with his friends, bought him a used car, nothing fancy, but a reliable Honda Civic, so he could drive home on weekends if he wanted to. He didn't want to. He came home maybe 3 times the entire year, and each visit was basically him raiding the fridge, doing laundry, and leaving again. But Mom treated each visit like the prodigal son returning, made his favorite meals, bought his favorite snacks, took him shopping for clothes he needed. I was living in their house and they barely acknowledged my existence. I paid $200 monthly for rent, starting my 2nd year of community college. They called it contributing to household expenses, even though Tyler lived there rent-free when he was home. I did my own laundry, bought my own groceries, kept to myself in my small bedroom that still had my childhood furniture because upgrading wasn't a priority. I graduated at 24 with my bachelor's degree in business administration, 0 debt, and a job offer at a commercial real estate firm starting at $52,000 annually. I walked across the stage, got my diploma, and sat in the audience afterward watching other graduates celebrate with their families. Mine weren't there. Tyler had a friend's graduation party to attend that same day, and my parents couldn't miss it because they'd already RSVP'd. The party was for some guy I'd never heard of who Tyler had known for maybe 6 months, but that was more important than their son's college graduation. I sent them a picture of me in my cap and gown. Mom replied, "So proud of you," with 3 heart emojis. Dad sent a thumbs-up reaction. That was it. No card, no gift, no acknowledgement of what I'd accomplished working full-time through 6 years of higher education. Tyler graduated the following year, at age 24, after 6 total years of college, finished with a 2.4 GPA and a degree in marketing. They rented out a restaurant for his graduation party, invited 40 people, had it catered with a 3-course meal, speeches about how proud they were, how hard he'd worked, how bright his future was. Price tag for the party was around $2,500. Based on what I saw for the venue and catering, I wasn't even invited. I found out about it from a cousin who posted photos on social media. The job at the real estate firm was solid. I started in property management, dealing with tenant complaints, coordinating maintenance, processing lease applications. Entry-level work, but it paid decently, and I was good at it. I showed up early, stayed late, volunteered for projects nobody else wanted. Within 8 months, I got promoted to assistant property manager, raised to $58,000. 6 months after that, I moved into acquisitions coordination, evaluating properties, running financial analyses, helping negotiate deals, another raise to $64,000 at 26 years old. I bought a reliable car, a used 2015 Toyota Camry with 62,000 miles. Nothing flashy, but it was mine and it was paid for. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment that cost $895 monthly. I furnished it slowly with things from IKEA and Facebook Marketplace. Finally, I had my own space where I could breathe without constant reminders of being second best. I saved aggressively, opened a 401k and maxed out the company match, built an emergency fund, started investing small amounts. All the financial planning stuff my parents claimed to care about but never actually taught me. I learned it from books, podcasts, online articles. I built a secure foundation because I knew nobody was going to catch me if I fell. Tyler, meanwhile, landed a job through Dad's golf buddy at some boutique marketing agency downtown. His title was social media coordinator, which mostly meant posting on Instagram and calling it brand strategy. He made $38,000 but spent like he was clearing six figures. He lived in a nice apartment Dad co-signed for because Tyler's credit wasn't good enough to qualify on his own. He drove a leased BMW. Payments were $480 monthly, which he struggled to make every time. He wore designer clothes, ate out constantly, hit the clubs every weekend, all of it on credit cards he maxed out within months. I watched from the sidelines as Mom and Dad bailed him out repeatedly. 1 month he couldn't make rent. They covered it. 3 months later his car payment bounced. Dad handled it. Credit card minimums he couldn't pay. Mom took care of it. Over and over they stepped in to save him from consequences while I was building real financial stability and getting zero acknowledgement for it. I hit $70,000 salary by age 27. Crossed $20,000 in savings. Excellent credit score, not a penny of debt. I could probably qualify for a mortgage if I wanted. Mom's response when I mentioned doing well at work: "That's nice, dear. Have you met anyone special yet? When are you going to give us grandchildren?" I was 27, financially stable and career-focused. Tyler was 25, in debt up to his eyeballs and barely keeping his job. But I was the disappointment because I wasn't married yet. The breaking point came when I was 28. Tyler got fired from the marketing agency. Officially, it was company restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. He'd been showing up late, missing deadlines, spending work hours on personal stuff. His boss had given him multiple warnings before finally letting him go. He lost his job on a Tuesday. By Friday, he'd moved back home. Then came the conversation that changed everything. Dad called me on a Tuesday evening. I was at my apartment reviewing property assessments when he dropped the bomb. "Blake, we need to talk about helping out with the house." "What about it?" I asked, already sensing where this was going. "Well, your mother and I have been covering everything for Tyler while he gets back on his feet. And frankly, our savings have taken a hit. You're doing well at your job. We think it's time you contributed to the family expenses." I sat there in silence, processing what he'd just said. They'd spent their savings on Tyler's 6-year college adventure and his post-graduation lifestyle. And now, they wanted me to bail them out. "How much are we talking?" I asked. "The mortgage is $1,800 a month. Utilities run about $400. Then there's groceries, insurance, property taxes. Figure another $600 in miscellaneous. Call it $3,000 total. We're thinking you could cover about half of that, $1,500 a month. Nearly a third of my take-home pay just to subsidize the house where I no longer lived and support the brother who contributed nothing." "And what's Tyler contributing?" I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "Tyler's between opportunities right now. Once he finds something—" "He's not looking," I interrupted. "He's been between opportunities for 4 months, and I've seen his Instagram. He's not job hunting. He's going to concerts and playing video games." "That's not fair, Blake. He's dealing with depression from the job loss. Your mother and I think he needs time to heal before jumping back into the workforce." Depression, right? Tyler was depressed about losing a job he'd barely done, but I was supposed to work my tail off to fund his healing journey. Against my better judgment, I agreed, told myself it was temporary, told myself I was being the bigger person. I started transferring $1,500 every month to help with family expenses. That lasted about 6 weeks before Dad called again. "Blake, we need to formalize this arrangement. Your mother suggests opening a family account. That way we can all contribute and manage expenses together." "Who's all?" I asked, because so far I was the only one contributing anything. "Well, obviously we'll all chip in as needed. This is about transparency and working together as a family." They opened the account at their bank and added me as a CO owner so I could make deposits. They made it sound like a collaborative family effort, where we'd all pitch in like responsible adults. The first month, I deposited my usual $1,500. Mom deposited $200. Dad added $150. Tyler contributed exactly $0. Month 2, I deposited $1,500. They contributed nothing. The entire balance from my first deposit had already been spent. I checked the transaction history online and felt my blood pressure spike. $180 at Morton's Steakhouse. $320 at Nordstrom for clothes Mom didn't need. $95 for Tyler's gym membership that he'd used exactly twice before deciding fitness wasn't his thing. $200 for Mom's hair appointment at an upscale salon. $150 for Dad's golf league entry fee. $85 for Tyler to take his friends to a movie and dinner. Not a single dollar toward actual bills, just entertainment and luxuries charged to what was supposed to be an emergency fund. Months 3 through 12 followed the same exact pattern. I'd deposit $1,500 like clockwork. Usually within the first 3 days of the month, they'd spend it within 2 weeks and contribute nothing themselves. By month 6, I'd put in $9,000. Their combined contributions? Maybe $600 total if I was being generous. I started tracking the expenses in a spreadsheet because I'm apparently a masochist who wanted to see exactly how my money was being wasted. The categories were depressing. Dining out, $3,200. Clothing shopping, $1,850. Tyler's entertainment, $980. Mom's salon visits, $620. Dad's hobbies, $740. Actual household bills, $2,610. So out of $9,000 I deposited, less than $3,000 had gone toward legitimate expenses. The rest was pure lifestyle spending for people who contributed nothing to the account. I brought this up at a family dinner in August, tried to be diplomatic about it. Didn't want to start a fight, just wanted them to see the pattern. Hey, I've been looking at the family account transactions I started casually while we ate the takeout I'd paid for. Seems like most of the spending is on non-essentials. Maybe we could redirect some of that toward actually paying bills? Mom looked up from her plate, fork frozen midair. Blake, are you saying we shouldn't be allowed to enjoy life? That seems pretty selfish. I'm saying maybe we shouldn't be using emergency money for shopping trips and fancy dinners. That's what the account was supposed to be for. Emergencies. Dad jumped in. Everything is an emergency when you're living paycheck to paycheck. Your mother needed those clothes for a wedding, I needed to maintain my golf membership for business networking, and Tyler needed to take his friends to the movies. Tyler shrugged, not even looking up from his phone. Dude, relax. You make good money. What else are you spending it on? You don't even have a girlfriend to take out. That comment stung more than I wanted to admit, but I swallowed it and stayed focused. The point is, this was supposed to be a shared family account. I'm the only one putting money in. You're all just spending it. That's what family does, Mom said, her voice taking on that manipulative edge she'd perfected over the years. We share resources. You're doing well financially. Why shouldn't we benefit from that success? It's not like you earned it alone. We raised you, gave you values and work ethic. The values and work ethic I developed despite them, not because of them. But pointing that out would just start another fight that I'd inevitably lose because it was 3 against 1. Fine, I said. But can we at least agree to spend responsibly? Actually use the money for bills instead of entertainment? They all agreed. Empty promises that meant nothing because the spending continued exactly the same. September brought Tyler's birthday. He wanted to go to a concert, some popular artist I'd never heard of. Tickets were $150 each. He bought 4 tickets using the family account, 1 for himself and 3 for friends. $600 gone in one transaction for an event I wasn't even invited to. October, Mom decided she needed new living room furniture. The old stuff was outdated, even though it was maybe 5 years old and perfectly functional. She spent $1,200 on a new couch and coffee table using the family account. Didn't ask anyone's opinion, didn't discuss whether this was a wise use of shared funds. Just did it. November, Dad's car needed work. Normal maintenance stuff, oil change, tire rotation, some minor repairs. Total bill was $340. He paid for it out of the family account, which was whatever, cars need maintenance. But then he also charged $280 for premium detailing and $150 for some interior upgrades. Because apparently when you're using someone else's money, basic maintenance becomes an excuse for upgrades. December arrived, and I'd been funding this disaster for over a year. Quick math, I had deposited $18,500 into the family account. My parents combined had contributed maybe $800. Tyler had contributed his usual amount of absolutely nothing. I started seriously questioning my life choices. I was 28, single, living alone, working hard to build a future, and over a third of my monthly income was going to subsidize a family that couldn't be bothered to appreciate it. The final straw came at Christmas. I decided to do something big, something that would prove once and for all that I mattered. I rented an upscale event space downtown for Christmas dinner, not a church basement or someone's living room. This place had floor-to-ceiling windows, professional catering, a proper sound system for background music. It cost me $4,800 for the venue, food, decorations, and open bar. I invited everyone, parents, Tyler, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even some of Tyler's friends he wanted there. I sent proper invitations, the whole professional treatment. I spent weeks planning every detail, worked with the caterer on the menu, picked out centerpieces, made sure dietary restrictions were covered. This was going to be perfect. This was going to be the moment when my family finally appreciated what I'd done for them. Christmas dinner arrived. The space looked incredible. Decorated perfectly, food smelled amazing, everything running smoothly. Guests arrived and immediately started complimenting the setup. My aunt pulled me aside to say this was the nicest family gathering we'd ever had. I felt proud, finally doing something that got recognized. Dinner service started around 7. Everyone sat at this long table I'd arranged, family-style seating. I'd put thought into the arrangement, making sure people sat near relatives they actually liked. Mom was at one end, Dad at the other, Tyler in the middle, surrounded by cousins near his age. The meal was excellent. 3-course service with a choice of entree, professional waitstaff bringing everything out perfectly timed. I sat there watching everyone enjoy themselves, feeling like maybe this was it. Maybe this was the turning point. Around 8:30, after dessert had been cleared, Tyler stood up. He had this look on his face I'd seen before, that smirk he got when he was about to say something he thought was hilarious. "Hey everyone, can I get your attention for a second?" he called out, tapping his glass. Conversations died down. All eyes turned toward him. "I just want to say how great this dinner has been. Blake really went all out this year." He gestured toward me with his glass. A few people nodded in agreement. Then his expression changed. That smirk got bigger. "But let's be real for a minute. Blake does all this stuff because he's desperate for attention. Always has been. I mean, the guy spent thousands of dollars on this dinner just so we'd all notice him for once." The table went quiet. I felt my face getting hot. Tyler kept going, which got me thinking. "Blake, I've got a challenge for you. I dare you to disappear for a few days. Just vanish. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Want to know what'll happen?" He paused for effect. "Absolutely nothing. Nobody will miss you. Nobody will even notice you're gone. Because let's face it, you're just not that important to any of us." The silence was deafening. I looked around the table. Mom was studying her napkin. Dad was looking anywhere but at me. My grandparents looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Tyler's friends were trying not to laugh. "Well?" Tyler said. "You going to take the dare, or are you too scared to find out I'm right?" I stood up slowly. My hands weren't shaking. My voice didn't crack. I felt strangely calm. "I accept your challenge," I said. Tyler laughed. "What? Right now? Come on, man. I was just messing with you." "No, you weren't. You meant every word." I looked at my parents. "Did either of you want to say something? Defend me at all?" Mom opened her mouth, but no words came out. Dad just looked away. "That's what I thought," I said. I pulled my wallet out, removed my credit card, and walked over to where the event coordinator was standing near the kitchen entrance. "Excuse me, I need to settle the bill now instead of at the end of the evening," I told her. She looked surprised but pulled out her tablet. I paid the full $4,800 right there, added a 20% tip for the staff, and signed the receipt. Then I walked straight out, didn't say goodbye to anyone, didn't look back, just left my family sitting at that beautifully decorated table in the event space I'd paid for, probably trying to figure out if I was serious. I was absolutely serious. I drove to a hotel near my apartment, checked in for the night because I wasn't ready to be alone yet, and sat on the bed staring at nothing for about 2 hours. Around midnight, I opened my banking app and looked at the family account. Balance? $8,340, all of it from my deposits over the past few months that hadn't been spent yet. I'd been putting extra in for Christmas expenses that never materialized. With 3 taps on my phone, I transferred all of it to my personal checking account. Then I removed myself as co-owner of the family account, changed my direct deposit to stop the automatic $1,500 monthly transfer, logged into the mortgage company's website, and canceled the payment authorization I'd set up 6 months ago. It was 12:17 a.m. on December 26 when I finished. My family was about to learn a very expensive lesson about what happens when you treat someone like an ATM instead of a son. The first text arrived at 10:43 a.m. on December 26th from Tyler. "Dude, Netflix isn't working. Did you forget to pay the bill?" I stared at that text for a full minute. After everything that happened last night, his first concern was Netflix. Not apologizing, not checking if I was okay. Netflix? I typed back, "Not my problem anymore." His response came immediately. "What, come on, man, fix it, my friends are coming over." I didn't respond. Just set my phone down and went back to apartment hunting. My current lease was month to month. and I wanted something new, somewhere that felt like a fresh start instead of the place I'd been living while funding my family's lifestyle. The texts continued throughout the day. Tyler sent 6 more messages, each one progressively more annoyed that I wasn't jumping to solve his problems. By evening, he called. "Blake, what the heck is going on? I tried using the family account to pay for something, and it's empty. Where'd the money go?" "I took it," I said calmly. "It was my money." "Your money? It's the family account." "Yeah. And I was the only family member putting anything in it, so I took out what was mine. All of it." "You can't do that," Tyler shouted. "Mom and Dad are going to freak out." "Probably. But remember your dare? You wanted me to disappear. I'm just following through." That was a joke, obviously. Weird, because nobody laughed. Not even you. You all just sat there while I walked out. "Whatever, man, just put the money back. Don't be dramatic." "Let me think about that." I paused for exactly 3 seconds. "No." I hung up. He called back immediately. I declined the call. He sent a long text calling me selfish and immature. I blocked his number. The next call came from Mom the following morning. "Blake, where are you? We need to talk." "I'm at my place." "Well, we have a problem. There's no money in the family account, and your father says the mortgage payment didn't go through." "That's correct." "What do you mean that's correct? Why didn't the payment go through?" "Because I canceled it. I also took all my money out of the family account and removed myself as co-owner." Silence. Then, "Blake, this isn't funny." "I'm not laughing, Mom." Neither was anyone else at Christmas dinner when Tyler spent 5 minutes telling everyone how unimportant I am. He was just joking around. "You're being too sensitive." "No, I'm being exactly sensitive enough. You, Dad, and Tyler have treated me like a bank for over a year. I deposited almost $20,000 into that account. You want to know how much the 3 of you contributed? Maybe $400 total. The rest went to restaurants, clothes, Tyler's trips, Dad's golf fees, everything except actual bills. That's what families do, Blake. We support each other." "Support goes both ways, Mom. You've supported Tyler his whole life. I've supported everyone financially. Who's been supporting me?" She didn't have an answer for that. "The mortgage payment is due by the 5th, she said, changing tactics. "If it's not paid, we go into default." "Then I suggest you figure out how to pay it. Tyler should probably get a job. You and Dad might want to look at your spending habits." "Blake, please. We don't have that kind of money right now. You had plenty of money when it was mine. Now you'll have to figure it out, like I did, by working for it." I hung up before she could guilt-trip me further. That was always her move. Make me feel responsible for their problems until I caved and fixed everything. Not this time. Days passed. My phone kept blowing up with calls and texts. I ignored most of them, blocked Tyler's number, then Dad's when he started sending aggressive messages about family obligations and how I was abandoning the people who raised me. The people who raised me. That was rich, coming from the man who barely looked at me unless he needed something. 2 weeks after Christmas, Dad called from Mom's phone. I answered because I was curious how far this would escalate. "Blake, we need to talk in person." "I'm fine talking like this." "No, this requires a conversation. Meet us at the house tomorrow at 6. "I'm not coming to the house." "Blake, you want to talk? We can meet at a coffee shop, neutral territory." He agreed, probably because he had no choice. We met at a place near my office the next day. They were already there when I arrived, Mom looking stressed, Dad looking furious. "Sit down," Dad ordered. I sat, didn't say anything, just waited. "What you're doing is unacceptable," Dad started. "We're your family. We took you in when nobody else wanted you." "Let me stop you right there," I interrupted. "You adopted me. That was your choice. You don't get to hold that over my head like I should be grateful you didn't leave me at an orphanage. Don't be smart with me." Dad snapped. "We gave you a home, food, clothes, which is literally the bare minimum required by law when you adopt a child. You want a medal for meeting the legal standard of basic care?" Mom tried to intervene. "Blake, honey, we love you. We just need you to understand." "Love." I leaned forward. "When's my birthday, Mom?" She blinked. "What?" "My birthday." "What day is it?" "It's in the spring, April 7th. Tyler's birthday is February 3rd. You've never once forgotten his, never missed a celebration, never gotten the date wrong, but you can't even remember my season." She looked flustered. "That's not fair. I'm under a lot of stress right now. I've been under stress my whole life trying to earn approval from parents who will never see me as anything other than the adopted kid who's less important than their biological son. I'm done with that." Dad slammed his hand on the table. We're facing eviction. The landlord has given us until the end of the month. Then you should probably figure out where you're moving. You selfish, he caught himself. We need help. You have the means to help. You're choosing not to. You're right. I'm choosing not to. Just like you all chose not to defend me at Christmas dinner, just like you chose to spend my money on luxuries instead of bills. We all make choices, Dad. You're just not used to mine mattering. I stood up to leave. Mom grabbed my arm. Please, Blake, Tyler's been applying to jobs, but nothing's come through yet. Just give us a few more months. Tyler's not applying to jobs. I checked his LinkedIn. He hasn't updated it in 8 months. His Instagram shows him at the arcade 3 days ago. He's not looking for work. He's waiting for someone to hand him something like always. That's not true. Prove it. Show me the applications. Show me the interviews he's supposedly doing. She couldn't. Because they didn't exist. I'm not your safety net anymore, I said. You're going to have to figure this out like adults. Maybe this will be good for Tyler. He'll finally learn what the real world looks like. I left them sitting at that coffee shop. Mom crying, Dad red-faced and furious. I felt nothing except a strange sense of peace. 3 weeks later, a cousin texted me with updates. They'd been evicted, had to move into a smaller apartment in a rough part of town. Tyler was staying with a friend because he couldn't handle living in such a small space. Mom and Dad were asking relatives for loans that nobody was willing to give. The cousin asked if I was planning to help them. I said no. She asked if I felt guilty. I said I felt free. Because that's what this was. Freedom. Freedom from being the family ATM. Freedom from begging for scraps of approval. Freedom from measuring my worth by how much I could give to people who would never appreciate it. Tyler sent me a message last week. First contact in 2 months. Hey, I got a job warehouse work. It's rough, but I needed something. Look, sorry about what I said at Christmas. I was being an idiot. Can we talk? I read it 3 times. Part of me wanted to respond. Part of me wanted to believe he'd actually changed. But then, I remembered sitting at that Christmas table while he challenged me to disappear because nobody would notice. I remembered Mom and Dad saying nothing. I remembered $20,000 spent on things that weren't my responsibility. I didn't respond. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding.